Hi guys, today we're going to talk about namespaces, and this is probably the thing that I know the least about with C Sharp. I know in like other languages like Java you have like packages and you can define those levels, but there's going to be a lot that I'm learning, so hopefully I can share that experience with you. So namespaces are sort of like buckets for pieces of code, so that way basically if you have two different methods that are named the same thing, which we can totally see if we're using like a write. So within the console, which is a namespace itself, you have write and write line. But if I were to use the write function, typically you need more than this. There we go. So this is coming from system.console. So there could be other places, other pieces of code that have this write function. You know, if you're making the bird scooter app, for example, and you want to write something. Anyways, you just have these like name conflicts. So having different namespaces helps resolve these name conflicts and, get code organized in a specific way that actually works out pretty well. So namespaces are also typically nested, and we can see this with like system.security.cryptography. All those namespaces, you first have the main system namespace, which is huge, right? But then you have the security namespace and then cryptography. So again, it helps nestle down that code to just specifically what you need. So if we were to create that ourselves, we have a namespace that's like, I'll probably get an error with this, but if I did this namespace cryptography, and then we did this, and then we can put our own code. Wow, that took a long time. We can put our own code within this namespace, and so now our namespace is technically this. And so this is just a shorthand way of writing multiple levels down a namespace. You could do it more verbosely. This is actually what it would look like if you did it verbosely. So I say security, right? And then I'm going to create another namespace in here that's named cryptography. So if we open up these curly braces and then remove these dots, this is the exact same structure. Those dots are just a shorthand way to write that, but this is a good way to actually view how namespaces work. And so I'm going to change the names of these, so that way I'm going to name it outer, middle, and inner. And so if I go down here and I create a new class test, and I'm going to steal static void main from here into here. We're going to say hello world. So we just created this, and the reason that we're getting error is because the namespace couldn't be found. So I'm not sure how this works within the same file, but let's see if we can import outer.middle.inner. Perfect. So now you can see, since we imported these namespaces, hello world is now recognized. And so that's cool. That's a good way to actually show how these namespaces work. And so if we were to import only outer and middle, we will get an error. So I actually tried to just use inner, since we were importing just outer.middle, but it actually throws an error, and so you have to actually use the full namespace name. But that seems really weird. I think I'm doing something wrong because you can use console. Actually, we're not importing system. So if we use system, and then we say console.writeLine, console is actually a namespace. Or console is actually a class. Interesting. Never mind. This all doesn't make sense. Alright, so I went ahead and reset the code so that way we don't have any craziness going on. And so for this entire series so far, we've been using console.writeLine, right? We had to call console every time. And so under the system namespace, console is a class. And if we actually hover over, we can see that it says class system.console. So you can use this using static system.console, and by doing this allows you to actually import a class or type or something directly. So we can actually remove console now, and it knows that we're using this console class, and one of the methods in the console class is this write line, so we don't have to specify console. All right, so that is it for our intro to namespaces.